I want to briefly just talk about life and living in the Middle East, and then I'll give a brief explanation of what we were actually doing there. So life in the Middle East is a bit mental. Living in Jerusalem, in Israel, you've three huge different faiths where they come to sort of a big center. You've got 3.5 million tourists coming to the city a year, and it's a really difficult place to be a Christian, even though you think that there's so much associated with it. But I just want to flip on to the next one. Just to give you an idea of what one of my main struggles was objectivity. To live in a place where there's so much that screams out at you as being wrong, and there's so many issues going on, it's really hard to stay objective as a Christian. And that when you lose that objectivity and you become prejudiced against one side or the other, you kind of lose your place as a Christian. You kind of lose any sense of why you're there or what you're trying to achieve through your faith or try to live out your faith. So it was more that we sort of side on the side of justice, and inevitably that sort of brings you down on one side or the other. And I realized that as I say, objectivity, and then I'm going to show you some slides of stuff that I really didn't agree with, and it's very one-sided. But that was sort of the thing. And this is one of my friends who owns a souvenir shop in Bethlehem. What he said was, there's an Arabic saying that is, you have five fingers on your hand. Not everybody is the same. You can't just class everybody as, Israeli or Palestinian or right as wrong. That there is that diversity and that objectivity is needed. Just to give you an idea of life in Israel, Palestine, checkpoints are a huge issue. And whenever we needed to go to the West Bank or whatever, you'd have to go through a checkpoint. And as a Westerner, you'd sort of fly through these checkpoints, sort of past a lot of Palestinians, and they wouldn't even ask you for your passport, whereas, there's a lot of people queuing there for sort of anywhere between sort of 10 minutes and 3 hours in the morning, just to get to work and back and forth. There's a huge amount of injustice and problems associated with these checkpoints. And I'm not trying to sort of give a well-rounded view in 5 minutes of the Israel-Palestine conflict. It's kind of just to give you an idea of sort of life on the ground and some of the things that we were dealing with going in between the two different sides. And checkpoints was the other. This is another sort of big one that happened in our neighborhood. We were living in East Jerusalem in Sheikh Jarrah, and this again was houses being confiscated by Israel, local Palestinians, and their houses being demolished against international law. And again, you're sort of seeing this stuff every day, and you just become desensitized to it, and you kind of almost become prejudiced. But again, it's trying to reel that back in and try and see the situation and see the people that are there. So just go on to the next one. So this is kind of what we were doing. We were doing something called aquaponics, which is, I'll kind of give a better explanation in a second, but this is our kind of question. Can this system that sort of provides food, can grow food, be designed to produce adequate fruit and vegetable yields on a household rooftop systems and household rooftops and courtyards in overpopulated urban areas of the Middle East? We were sent over there, or we went over there, and we were sponsored by Tear Fund Ireland and the Leprosy Mission Ireland. And basically, if we just flip on to a few more slides, this is where we were, sort of East Jerusalem. If people aren't familiar with Israel, Palestine, that's where we were. Jerusalem and Bethlehem's just south of that. And we go again. Basically, this is how it works in the most simplest form. I'm not going to take ages. Basically, you've got fish. They produce waste, and it gets pumped up into pipes where plants are planted. The fish waste is nutrients for the plants. The plants then clean the water for the fish, and it recycles it. So that's what we were trying to research. Is this a viable way to produce food in the Middle East? It was kind of an idea we came up with. It exists, but we were trying to put it in a humanitarian setting and see if we could make it viable for people in the Middle East who don't have a lot of land, but they have huge space and rooftops and stuff like that. So we were trying to integrate that in. If we just flip on again. So this is the church that we were working with, Church of the Nazarene. They have a massive roof, and we were testing 16 systems of 40 plants a system. So if you just go on again, just to give you an idea, we had two different types of systems that we were trying out, and just fly on again, just some of the stuff that we were growing, just to give you an idea of the sort of scale and what we're doing. And I'm more than happy to explain a bit more about it if anyone's interested. If you're not, that's cool. So basically, our main findings from this research were that our systems use 50% less water Then a ground-grown comparison. This is the huge issue in the Middle East with water for irrigation, water for just drinking. Even in some of the suburbs of Bethlehem, water shut off for even 3 or 4 days a week during the summer with just no idea of when it's coming back on. 90% of the West Bank agriculture is done from collected rainwater, and so we're looking at ways, how can you sort of capitalize on that water, and our plants grew on average 5 to 10 times faster in our systems. So just to give you an idea, if we go on to the next one of what's next, one of our researchers, Chris, is in Jordan at the moment, and he's basically trying to train an NGO how to use this technology. And I did email him, ask him, can we get some pictures? And he doesn't own a camera, so he said no. So a few of you know Chris, so that's sort of true to the form. At the moment, I'm building a new prototype system from our research. We had loads of recommendations, so I'm building that system here in Dublin now to see if we can get it sort of working on sort of make it more efficient. And then there's potential of going to the Philippines at the end of the summer to work with a university there and build aquaponics into their curriculum. It's a theological college, and they'll be sort of training pastors who will bring this technology back to their different areas. But yeah, so thanks very much.
Well done. I'm impressed. You're underneath the time. That's fantastic. It was really good. So I know that's an example of something that Alan talked about, being passionate about what you do and bringing it into the culture of the city. In this case, it's bringing it into Jerusalem, into a place that's so in need. I just wanted to ask you one question. I know we hadn't practiced this, but are you okay with this? Yeah, good. It's just, I know you're kind of from a science background, and that you are passionate about bringing that into something you want to apply in this context. Is that's something that you're really passionate about? Just talk just even a couple of seconds just about that, just to follow on from what Alan is saying, just encouraging us to take what God has given us and put that into practice.
Sure. Yeah. We should have practiced it. Why I originally went out to the Middle East is I went to see Noam Chomsky speak in the ODS a few years ago, and someone asked a question, what impact can we have in the Middle East, if you're just one person? He's like, well, go and see it, come back and tell people about it. And that was kind of where my passion started, to see the Middle East and to see some sort of change. And then, I saw something that I had potential to sort of work into, and that really excited me. And when we actually you can get bogged down in research, and it's so removed from people and the end goal of what you see. But during the week, we would have between sort of 20 and 30 people, and locals, NGO workers, other scientists come and actually see the project and get really excited about it. And that sort of fuels your passion to see something that changed. We had the head of the FAO, the UN FAO from Gaza, come and get really excited about our project. And when you see that, it makes the research worthwhile, and it makes, you can see that you have something to give and something to sort of feed into sort of a bigger picture, even though sometimes you're just feeding fish for 6 months on a rooftop. So that's sort of to see the impact. I mean, it's not all about results, but to actually see the people as well and how that's impacting them.